Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree Buonomo. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. Today we are doing my February recap, and this is going to include all the books that I read in the month, my progress on my writing, and some personal life tidbits that I just feel like sharing. So to keep this video down to a minimum, let's just jump into it. So the first thing that I like to do every month is just kind of recap all the books that I've read. So to start, the first book that I finished in the month of February was The Project by Courtney Summers. The project follows a younger girl whose sister, in an attempt to kind of save this girl's life, ends up joining a cult and disappears. So as she begins her own career trying to be a journalist, she ends up getting an in to this cult to try to learn more about them and solve her sister's disappearance and, if she's still there or what happened to her. So this book is the second Courtney Summers book that I read, and I did listen to it on audio. Personally, I don't know if I would recommend the audio because there were a lot of little things that bothered me a lot. Specifically, like I can hear breathing a lot. I can also hear swallowing, and little things like that really set me on edge. So when I keep noticing them, it really bothered me. But overall, the book was pretty solid. I really liked how occasionally there was a couple misdirections that the author did where I thought it was going in one direction and then she kind of gave it through a loop. However, overall, the story was rather predictable. So I think it's a really good book, especially if you're interested in cults. I love all the psychology behind it. So for that reason, I would definitely recommend it, even though there were a few things that kind of disappointed me or just weren't as exciting as I thought they were going to be. The second book of the month that I finished was Across the Green Grass Fields by Seanan McGuire. This book is the sixth. It's the sixth book in the Wayward Children series, which follows a bunch of different children in various stages of their life where they end up finding a door to a world that is specifically meant for them. And then they kind of come back. They find that they just don't belong in our world anymore and have a really hard time adjusting. So there is Miss Eleanor's Home for Wayward Children, where she kind of collects all these kids who went through a portal, because she herself also went through a portal at one point, and really helps them try to adjust and either find their door once more or stay and kind of acclimate to our own life again. So this book follows Reagan, who is intersex and kind of has a fallout with one of her friends at school over the fact that she's intersex. And she ends up running into the woods and finding a door that kind of leads her to this horse land where there are various types of equine creatures, such as regular horses and centaurs and satyrs and a bunch of other fun things like selkies. So this whole world is like equine, and it's part of her love. Like, she loves horses to begin with, and that's the place that she's always felt comfortable around, was horses. So she fits in pretty well, and they tell her that when she arrives that there's a quest for her to do, but she can pretty much do this quest whenever she needs to. Like, it's her job to find out what it is. So this book just follows her adventures there, and it's a really short book, so that's pretty much all I should give you. But overall, this was a fun book. It was very cute. I feel like even though some of the concepts might be hard to grasp, I do think like middle grade and young adult can easily relate to this book as well, especially because the age of the character is like a 5th grader. So it's very easy for people to kind of just jump in. It was very short, and while it wasn't exactly predictable, which I'm happy, because you do watch her like as she's in this world for some time, it definitely left the door open to like revisiting this world, even though I'm not sure. I think Seanan McGuire has 2 more books, like she's gonna have 8 books total. So the only thing that I will definitely say about this book is that this is an entirely new character that has no connection with any of the other books. So you can literally read this as a standalone, which is nice for some people. But for me, I kind of wish we saw like some other characters that have already been brought up, because there's definitely been a lot of interesting characters and I wanted to see more of them again, but we had literally no connections in this book. So good or bad, it's definitely gonna be good for some people. For me, that was a little bit of a downfall, but overall I enjoyed this one. The third book that I read in the month of February was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This book follows a Hades and Persephone retelling. So you're following Persephone as the goddess herself, the goddess of spring, and she is in a world that the Greek gods ended up kind of coming out as real, and they now rule this world. So there are places like New Olympus and New Athens where the Greek gods predominantly reside, and they are known to the public and are very coveted and desired in this world. So Persephone is a goddess of spring, but per an agreement with her mother Demeter, she ends up staying in the mortal world and acting as a regular college student, even though she is a goddess in disguise. She's pretty much avoided all the gods her entire life, but eventually finds her way to Hades' club. And when she's there, they start to have this kind of kindling, and a budding romance, and enemies to lovers romance springs from there, where she's trying to undercover like all of his like devious ways, but maybe starts to figure out that he's not so devious after all, and the media paints him as such. So this is kind of fun because it's urban fantasy, but has like those beloved Greek elements that we love. And it is definitely an adult romance. So be warned that there are various sex scenes in this book. So if that's not your jam, then keep that in mind. But overall, I was actually thought this was a pretty solid read. I wasn't really expecting much because it is a couple years old at this point. And I actually follow the author. I don't even know how I ended up following her on Instagram, but I did. And she rebranded all of her covers, and I really liked the covers. So I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And it's really well written, honestly. It is in some ways very romantic, erotica tropes filled. So if you kind of roll your eyes at all that stuff, then you're probably going to roll your eyes in this one. But if you like that kind of book, then I think you're going to love this one. It's definitely a really good, solid read. And it was true to the Hades and Persephone myth, but still having this like fresh take on it. So I really liked it. And the last book that I read for the month of February was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I've already done an in-depth reading vlog for this, so I will direct you in the cards to go watch that. I know it's a little bit longer, I'm sorry, but I had a lot of thoughts and I wanted to share them. So the only thing I'll say here is that I did enjoy this book. It was very heavy-handed on the graphic sexual nature, which I could have done without completely. But the pros of this is that there's a lot of discussion around trauma and healing, and for the most part, with a few exceptions, it was done really well. So this is an installment in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, so if you have not read this series, then you literally cannot read this. It's not a standalone, it is a continuation of the series, so you need to have read the other one first. And just an update on two other books that I started, because this was the month of smut and gods. I have continued reading Pestilence, but I ended up putting Pestilence aside when I started reading A Court of Silver Flames. So for that reason, I have not finished Pestilence yet. I don't know what it is with that book, guys, but every time I try to start reading it, I get like distracted and I forget that I'm reading it. So I have gotten into some possibly steamy scenes, but nothing crazy's happened in that book yet. I know they're coming. And similarly with the gods end of things, I started Lore by Alexandra Bracken, which is a book that follows a girl named Lore who comes from an ancient Greek line of people. Perseus, I believe, is her family. So she comes from like Perseus's Greek line, and the gods were cursed that every 7 years they walk amongst the mortals and can be killed, where someone can then claim their godlike power and become the new god. She lives in this world where she pretty much has to hunt or be hunted, and so far I don't know if I'm quite halfway through it, but it's definitely interesting. I can see myself either really enjoying this book or kind of it's going to go in a turn that I'm not liking. But I really like the setup so far. I think the premise of like these gods being hunted and like new gods happening, so like the Ares and the Apollo and the Athenas that we knew as like the gods are no longer them, and then anyone can kind of come and like claim them again. But also you have these people who are trying to wipe out the bloodline, so like they have no say. So it's a very interesting premise, and I like it for that reason. I also kind of like Lore, even though she does give me that vibe of I'm not like other girls, which I haven't seen that in a while. So it was kind of interesting to be reading it, but from like, without saying you're not like other girls. So it's just interesting. But that's also a book that I'm in the middle of. So I'm reading those two now. And then I am going to be starting soon my March buddy read, which is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. And if you guys have been keeping track, I have read one big book a month so far. If I finish To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, it'll be an entirely, I've helped one every month, which baffles me because I don't think I've ever been able to do that. And I think To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is like 800 pages. So like, who will I be? Can we keep this up? Who wants to take bets now? Let me know down in the comments below. So that was all my reading. So let's go into the writing. I don't really have many writing updates. Unfortunately, due to a couple personal things that came up, which I will talk about in my personal section, I did not finish my second draft of Prophecy Project. I am getting close. I ended up adding a lot more chapters than I thought I was going to, so that definitely slowed things down. But my word count is getting up there, which is exciting because I really wanted to get between 90,000 and 100,000 for this draft, so I think I will easily do it. But one of the reasons that I ended up kind of slowing down with my writing is because I attended my first writing conference. It was virtual, but it was the Juniper Writing Conference that was hosted by Mary Weber and CJ Redwine, both of which are pretty much young adult authors, but have like branched out into some other areas, and they also have their own businesses for editing and like writing services. So I am not going to talk too much in this video because I did vlog that experience, and I think it came together nice enough that it will be worth the vlog. So I will direct you to that. I believe it's going to come out on Friday. So if it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. I have 2 videos planned. I just don't know when they're coming out. But if you're interested in that video, be on the lookout. But I definitely took a lot away, especially for the traditional path in the querying and pitching department, because there's a lot of things that I haven't done yet, or things that like I can make my pitch and my query the best possible. So that was pretty much the only writing updates that I had. So let's just jump into the personal life now. So I kind of already mentioned this, I believe, in my January wrap up, but I got my first COVID shot for the vaccine in January, and in February I got my second shot. There was a lot of issues with my second shot because Pennsylvania messed up big time. I live in Pennsylvania, and they gave a lot of second doses to people as their first dose, and then they ran out of doses. So for 3 weeks, I wasn't able to get my second dose, and it was really pushing that window of time where I would have to start over. But I got it literally in the nick of time. I didn't quite go 3 full weeks, thank God. But I did get my second shot. So the main update with that is that it like wiped me out. I got it at 6:15 at night. By 8 o'clock, I was already feeling fatigued, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a day. And then Thursday, I was so sick. I woke up immediately. Well, first of all, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, like shaking. And when I tell you I'm shaking, guys, my puppy, she wanted to give input. But when I tell you I was shaking, I was convulsing. So much so that my husband woke up and looked at me and said, "You're shaking the bed. What is happening?" And I'm like, "I'm just so cold. I can't get warm." So he had to go find me more blankets. And I already had fuzzy socks, like a fuzzy pair of pajama pants, and like a wool blanket on top of me. That was how bad I felt. So then, of course, by like 5 a.m., I started sweating then. And that was pretty much the cycle for the entire day. I woke up with a pounding headache. I woke up kind of nauseous and dizzy. And then I was just very like fatigued, and I just wanted to sleep, but I don't have PTO time yet. So I had to like work through it all. Thankfully I worked from home, but it was a nightmare. And then like as soon as I was able to clock out for the day, I pretty much slept for like another 3 hours. I somehow got online to do a live stream, and then I went to bed. And then I woke up the next day absolutely fine. So I don't know why it's so dramatic, but I knew I was not going to handle it well because I didn't really handle the first one. Like I was so fatigued after the first shot, so I knew it was going to be a rough time. But that's not to scare anyone out of it. I was literally the next day, I was absolutely fine, and this was to be expected. I didn't have any symptoms out of the norm. It was a lot to deal with. Like, I don't like being sick because personally, I feel like it's a waste of time. I know that's so ridiculous to say, but like I could do nothing physically. So like I just wasted all that time because all I could do was sit or sleep. So like I couldn't do anything in my house. So Friday I became super manic, and I drank a Red Bull, and I ran around my house, and I was cleaning everything like crazy. And I felt better, but I definitely felt like that was a waste of time. So that's my COVID shot update. We are good now. We are vaccinated. Hallelujah. Puppy. What is your problem? Otherwise, in my personal life, I have been watching some more TV lately. So we have been watching WandaVision, which I'm absolutely blown away by how good it is. I really did expect to love this. Like, I went in with probably too high of expectations, but somehow it's exceeding them with how many twists and turns there are, and like all the reveals, and even some of the stuff that I predicted would happen. It's still like so good with like the screenplay and everything. So I'm loving that. And then the whole gods and smut thing pretty much carried over into my TV as well, because me and my husband started watching American Gods, which is on Stars and based off the book by Neil Gaiman, who also wrote the show. So it's been interesting. I have never read the book, so I can't compare it, or else this probably would have been a book versus adaptation video. But for the show itself, it's very interesting. I like the concepts that are there, but so far we haven't amounted to like a big thing. So I don't know if like we are gonna do like, it's gonna take several seasons until we get to the big shebang and then the show's over. I wouldn't mind that, but it's meandering a lot. So on some days, like, I just get really annoyed because I'm like, where is this going? Neil Gaiman, tell me, get there already. But I really love the cast. I also found out that I didn't realize it for the longest time that Emily Browning was in the show. And then I was like, oh, she's in the show. But yeah, so we're on season 3. We binged the entire first season and half the second season in 1 week. And then we finished the second season like week 2. So now we're just kind of slowly getting through week 3. But that's just my watching update. Let me know down below if you've watched either of those and what your thoughts are. And if you watch American Gods, like, don't give me spoilers because I'm not done with season 3 yet. But let me know if we get to the shebang yet. And otherwise, my personal life, I don't think has been too interesting because mostly, again, I've been like sequestering in my home. I've been working from home a lot. But next week, my clients, because I work in the school, if you guys remember, if you've been around here, my clients are coming back in person. So not all of them, some of them are opting to stay virtually, but the majority of my classroom is coming back in person. So I'll start to have in-person sessions again, and I literally cannot tell you how happy that makes my soul. I miss working with kids in person. I miss seeing their progress and actually like making an impact, because I really just don't feel like virtual does well for a lot of kids. So I'm really happy for that. But yeah, that's it. I really don't think I have anything interesting. If for some reason I think of something, I will leave it down below in the comments. And, you guys can just tell me a fun fact about yourself. Let me know how your February went. Did you read anything good? Watch anything good? Anything exciting happening to you? And what are you looking forward to doing in March? Thank you guys so much for watching. I post videos Tuesdays and Fridays. I have a few live streams on YouTube Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I have one on the 6th and one on the 27th if you want to write with me. And then I also post gaming streams on Twitch, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. So until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.